we've come to these understandings of these things of awareness at around what, 35, 40, 50 years old. So by now, my oldest, your oldest, hell, Sykes' oldest, they ain't trying to hear that shit. Yeah, they're listening to some stuff here and there and whatnot, but making real changes, paradigm shifts, and having their whole dynamic just completely different and doing something significantly different probably ain't gonna happen. If we'd had this understanding when we was 25, and our babies were still babies, we'd have been on some shit. We probably would have liberated everybody in the world by now. We done. It's over. Everybody can go home. Put your AKs away. It's all groovy, copacetic.
Ebonic barbaric hieroglyphs, I spit my gifts, shift your surface with vernacular skill. The rawest live, touching down like meteors, none other than black gods. Stones in my timepiece coming from black stars. Negativity keep far away from doors. Single-mindedly destroying the ops and the odds. Just another warrior's quest. The past may get rest. Demons coming for my crown, get beheaded like the next. These blessings never rest, just to verbalize a message, catching energies of critics. All the Atari get deaded. Pray I stay alert on the field, be skillmatic in anything my enemies steal. Be dead actions, I proceed just life I lead beneath it. So many seas to win. It's our time to align stars. So spirits lead. Who could war with me? Catastrophically or audibly, given no choice by God's law. I'm Lucifer on streets.
Peace and power. This brother Syke calling out of Texas. I'm 1/3 of the Panther 48. I got brother E sitting with me calling out of Florida.
Greetings, fam. Greetings.
And I got brother Wolf sitting with me calling out of California.
Up out to the people, folks.
Peace and power. This will be part 2 of what we started last week on reclaiming families. Last week we did reclaiming families, and we talked about a lot of the dysfunction and problems that occur in the family, that has occurred in the family, that is taking the family out of its traditional roles. If you haven't seen that video, then you should check out part 1 so to catch you over what's going on in this video. In this video, we're dealing with part 2, and we're going to talk about some of the ways, techniques, and traditions that you can start implementing in family to put that family back in its traditional role. So we're going to start with this. We're going to give a definition of the family, and then I'm going to ask the brothers that I'm sitting with to give a breakdown of what they believe, in their opinion, is the role of the family. So, Brother E, Brother Walk, could y'all, either one of y'all, give us a definition of family, a working definition of family?
Go ahead, Ward. That's your area.
Oh, you think so, huh?
The working definitions of damn near any word. I don't have definitions. I just say shit.
All right, working definition of a family. Unit comprising, in the case that we're talking about, as well as just even expanding on it, the unit comprising of individuals that come together for the sake of a common goal in order to unify and produce more and more substance to greater expand upon who they are, where they are, and what they got going on, and how they're going to accomplish things. As it goes into that with a relationship between a male and a female, for the sake of reproduction, we're talking about a man, a woman, and a child.
Well, you was right, E. You knew he was gonna come with a nice, wordy, working definition.
Yeah.
So that was perfect, actually. What's up, E? You had something you want to jump in there and say?
Well, I mean, I guess for me it's a little bit simpler, but it's people that are united through blood or affinity, common interests, and that sort of thing. I like to keep shit simple, fundamental, basic. So that would be the definition for me. I have a lot of blood relatives. Some I've met back and forth, some I have not. I was at the club one time when I was probably 20, 23 years old. A cousin that I knew tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Look at that dude over there." I said, "Yeah." He said, "That's your cousin." I said, "Oh, okay." And we went on about our business. So for me, and I kind of picked this up from Syke years ago, there's a difference between relatives and family. I got a lot of relatives back in Fort Worth and East Texas and all of that, but I have very few family members, and a lot of those, including you fellas, are cats that I've I guess, elected into that family circle, that cipher. So for me, that's family. And we know that, you know, because we're African, and that whole extended family thing is just what the hell it is we do. So yeah, it's real basic and real simple for me. United around blood or a common affinity.
You know, ironically, and both of those are good definition. I think one is a practical definition and one is a good working definition. Now, you just made me want to tell a story. I remember,
of course.
Yeah, I remember when I first moved to Fort Worth, when I first coming from Dallas, around the time we first met, and I moved out to Stop 6. Now, being that I hadn't grew up here in Fort Worth, I didn't know what Stop 6. I didn't know any of this. It is any of the culture of Fort Worth, so to speak. And I came down, and I used to wear this hat. It had Southside across it all the time. Now, my Southside, it had Southside, and it had 75215, the zip code of South Dallas. So that was my Southside represented. So here it is. I'm walking in the store in Stop 6, and these two youngsters, kids probably, and they see me. They in all red. They see me. I see them mumbling and pointing at me, and then they run off. Then when they come back with this huge group. Now, when I see the way they moved around, I knew something was wrong. So they come back with this huge group of people, and I'm with a cousin of mine, and my Aunt K. You remember my Aunt K? But my auntie, she's at the counter, probably buying some lottery tickets or something. I don't know, but anyway, when this group of people come back in all red, now I know that, you know, Stop 6 was a blood neighborhood. When they come back in this all red, they come back and I see it, and I'm like, oh hell, I know something's gonna go down, because I know what it looks like when you out of pocket in somebody else's neighborhood. Anyway, this group of cats come up and they stay outside. I'm in the store, and this one guy come in, and when this one guy come in, he walk up, he looking at me, he mug me, I mug him back. You know, I know that he representing the group that's outside, and I'm just have to answer some questions. But after he mug me and I mug him back, and we go through that little ritual, he walk over to my auntie and hug my auntie. Hey, auntie. And then he dap up my cousin, and then my cousin bring him over and introduce him to me and say, hey man, that's your cousin, Benny boy, that's your cousin, you know what I'm saying? So he introduced us, you know, we ain't seen each other since we were kids. And so he like, oh, you such and such. He say, hold on 1 minute. He go outside, talk to the group, the whole group disperse. Then he come back inside, and then he, you know, tell me, man, I didn't know it was you, this, that, there, and the other. And he tell me about my Southside hat. And he tell me, you know how it is. And I had to tell him, I don't, this ain't representing the Southside here. This is for the Southside in Dallas. You know, and basically the whole point that a family member or a kinfolk or a relative showed up and stopped a situation that could have been extremely terrible based on me wearing the wrong things in the wrong neighborhood because I didn't know Fort Worth at the time. But anyway, that's neither here or there. You just made me want to tell that story. But my definition of family, and I'm gonna get a little bit wordy, not as wordy as Walt.
Oh,
my definition of family would be something like, I always like to say that the family is the nucleus of the community. And I almost want to credit E with that. I think I got that from E about 20 years ago. I might have got that from E, but the family is the nucleus of the community, because to me, the family is society's first organization. And I think we have to start looking at the family like an organization, because the family has a purpose. The family exists for a reason, you know. And my simple definition, and I'm gonna let you brothers chime in and get y'all thoughts on it. But my simple definition of why the family exists, the purpose of the family, is to cultivate the human being. It becomes the incubator for the newly born human being in order to develop the human being from a lower stage to a higher stage of consciousness in order to be able to navigate his reality, his or her reality. That's the purpose of the family. That's why the family is there. It exists as a wall of protection, education, and training for the newly formed human being, in my opinion.
If we're gonna get real primal with it, family is nothing more than a means to survival. I mean, all organisms have a way of surviving. Some, like lower animals and whatnot, insects and all of that, lay eggs, have babies, and that's it. There ain't no cultivating, no nurturing. It's just boom, gone. But when you start getting into the higher life forms, mammals and that sort of thing, we develop families as a way of surviving and creating that next generation. So we don't just have babies and put them out on the well. We didn't used to just have babies, put them out on the street, let them, fend for themselves. But we've kind of gotten back to that, unfortunately, in this day and age. But yeah, I mean, the purpose of the family is just, bottom line, on a primal level, is survival. Survival of the bloodline, survival of the genetics, survival of us. And then you start getting into the mental aspects of it and building on it, and it's part of community and da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Is that ease
yeah,
internet service?
Iffy, debatable. Don't you worry about my internet service. I don't know what's going on with it. Probably something to do with white people. I put my money on that. It's COVID. My internet got what is it? My Chromium? What is it? Omicron? Yeah, it's got Delta Cron.
Omicrons have dampened your bandwidth, brother.
Yeah, it's a transformer.
All right. So now we talking about and that's right. And just like any organism, if we look at the family as a living, breathing, constantly evolving thing, then it would start from that primal state and then evolve as the human being itself evolves. So what are some of the roles that you brothers think are necessary aspects of a family?
All right,
come on, I know you wrote up some of this stuff. Come on.
Yeah, let me get into my wordy aspect. Because when I think of roles first as it applies to the family, before you go into the roles of the different members of the family, first I break down things in terms of what I refer to in the trifecta as it applies to the individual, the family, and the community. Each person that builds within that family must address those three different aspects of a role. So, for instance, as an individual, what is it that I bring to the family? What are my strengths? And as I address my strengths within the essence of the family, how does those strengths that I have complement the other factors and other members of the family, as well as how do my weaknesses play into the positioning of my role within the family, as well as being able to get those to be accommodated, to be strengthened, so that we strengthen, going back to what Ian was saying earlier, the nucleus of the family. So as an individual, what do I bring to the table? As a family unit, how do I complement the family within the strengths and weaknesses that I bring to the table, to the family? And then within that family structure, how do we embed ourselves within the community? So I think of those three factors in terms of roles when we talk about that. And then obviously, depending on what are we talking about, things from the perspective of male-female relationship, or we talking about just, again, two people or multiple people sharing the same common goal in terms of what brings us together as a family. All these things come together in terms of what it is that I bring to the family in terms of my strengths, and that kind of goes into my roles. So that's how I look at that.
E?
Well, what was the question?
The roles of a family. What are the natural and important roles that are necessary for the proper function of a family?
You mean the roles of a family as a whole, or the individual within the role, within the family?
The roles inside of the family itself that strengthens the family. Like, example, you got a Panther chapter. What would be the roles that would be required in a Panther chapter? Chairman, chief of staff, minister of information, minister of defense, etc. I'm saying, what are roles? Like, we know we can basically break it down into 3 parts and say the most basic, simple roles in any family would be father, mother, child, the Trinity. Father, mother, child, sun, moon, stars. So that's the basic role. But what are some roles that are important and integrate for the proper function of family?
Well, depending on how you approach it, I don't think that it's even necessary to have the child. I mean, a man and a woman together with particular commitment, working together to achieve, purposes or goals, for me is a family. It's not a young family. It's not a family on the cusp of making their mark in the world and whatnot. If they've already had children and they're grown and they come together and there's still that family dynamic going on. So for me, that male and that female figuring out their roles, figuring out, I guess we would say, how to stay in their lane to affect a certain outcome, and you can look toward the Bible because it has some things in there that are founded and rooted in things that make sense and that are from our cultural perspective. Of course, they've been bastardized and jacked up, but the reality of it is, if we just look to the heavens and look at the relationship between the sun and the moon, I heard it once said that, contrary to popular belief, the moon does not shine. Rather, she reflects the light of the sun, whose cipher she spins. So it's the purpose of the sun in that particular dynamic. This sun is supposed to feed light, supposed to feed whatever form light takes in a particular relationship. In this particular one, it's actual light, thereby providing the light for the moon to reflect, to take in, to nurture, to develop, and to create. Osar Set, Osar being the definer of the cosmos, and Aset being the ruler of the plane. It's man, Osar, defines cosmological reality for a woman. Essentially, in our terms, gets a bunch of land, puts a house on it, whatever, and then says, here you go, Ma, I built this for you to rule over. So this is her dynamic. This is her place to shine. This is her place to nurture. This is her place to be the goddess, to be the queen, to be whatever, while he deals with those things that are outside the house. There's a reason that men and women are built the way they are. If we look to those physiological things, we get an idea of our particular relationship. There's a reason that it's more difficult. When somebody makes a touchdown in a Super Bowl, after he's done celebrating, used to be anyway, they bring the camera over and he starts saying hi to family members. Who does he always, if he forgets everybody else, who does he say hi to? Hi, Mom. Hey, Mom. Always Mom. Never Daddy. Daddy gets put back in the back somewhere. It's hi, Mom. Why? Because it's the role of the woman to nurture, to basically kiss your boo-boos when you come in from playing outside. It's okay, baby. I'm gonna take care of it. Put some of this on it. You're gonna be all right. It's okay. And then it's the father's role to take that same child and put him back out there so he can get boo-boos again. So nobody's gonna have a warm and fuzzy feeling about the cat that made me go outside and get beat up. They're gonna have a warm and fuzzy about the one who nurtured and cared for, and baby, it's gonna be all right. So those are the basic roles to me. It's her role to make this home so that the children, so that everybody has some place to come back to when they finish flying through the air and around the world and whatnot, they can land at home and get what they need before they go out on another adventure to learn some more things. It's my role to establish and to maintain the perimeter so that this home is taken care of. I take care of her, she takes care of the children. Now, by me taking care of her, I'm also taking care of the children, but that dynamic between them is much closer and much different than we'll ever know. So it's, this whole women being in the military and being the heads of Yahoo and the head of Lockheed Martin and all of these industries and whatnot is so counterintuitive. You used to have home ec. When I was in school, they had home ec because home economics, we talk about economics a lot, but home economics was an important thing. It was a science to make sure the family is fed properly, that money is spent the right way, that da 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 da. Whereas now that's downplayed and downgraded. So of course, sisters, women in general, don't want anything to.
The signal keep breaking.
to do with it
No.
because it's not respected anymore. And that's an decision. But that's a part of the dynamic in figuring out, those roles. There are very definite roles. And it's crazy to me how all of this ERA women's lib shit has only been the past 100 years or whatever. Let's call it 100 years. We've been on this planet hundreds, thousands, millions, don't know how long. Wait for us.
See, he building
Over
on
all of
something
these
too.
years,
I hate
never
you freezing up.
suffered in mass. African women have never suffered in mass at the hands of Black men. We've never oppressed our women. There's not a culture on this planet, not an African society on this planet that has subjugated its women the way Europeans have subjugated their women. So the issues that we're having in this country are purely and directly a result of a European experience. And part of that experience is nobody knows what their role is anymore because it's been devalued and a number of other reasons and whatnot, but everybody's trying to play somebody else's part. So I think it's very important before we even get into the children to find roles. The family may be the most basic unit of society, but the male-female relationship is the most basic unit of the family. You can't have a healthy, functional family with just a yin. You can't have a healthy, functional family with just a yang. You got to have that dynamic in place first in order that it can trickle down and be reflected into the children, into the earth, so to speak. Sorry, it's freezing up. What can I say?
I think he really touched on some things, and we kind of touched on it on a past video we did. I want to call it, I think it was called Balance of Being. If I remember, I'm gonna try to leave a link in the comments on this, so people can go back and look at it, because it kind of talks about, it kind of details what you were just breaking down, and that's real. That's a good way to look at it. We always take for granted that the male and the female creating that dynamic between each other is what creates the family. But we really, sometimes these things need to be pointed out, that the relationship between the male and female is the nucleus of the family, which is the nucleus of society. Sometimes those things really need to be pointed out. And like I said earlier, when I said the Trinity, the man, woman, and child, or sun, moon, and stars, in certain schools of builders, they'll attribute the man with the term knowledge, and again with sun, like you just said, and they'll relate woman with the term of wisdom, and again moon, as you were just kind of building on, and that knowledge unites with wisdom to produce understanding, which becomes the child itself, because of those two quote-unquote opposites finding that harmony and that balance between each other. I remember it was a time I was building on this incarcerated, with some brothers telling them that symbolically to the Hebrew people, the man represented the sun, whose job it was to shine light. The woman represented the moon, whose job it was to reflect that light, to be a shining symbol of the light that's going on inside her household, and the stars represent the children. And I think it's in I forget which book it's in. I think it's in Genesis, in the story of what's the name of the brother who could decipher dreams? He had a few other brothers. They end up getting rid of them, selling them to slavery, because they're Joseph. In the story of Joseph told his father that the sun, the moon, and the stars bowed to him in his dream. And his father responded to him. He said, "So what you telling me? That me, your mother, and your brothers are bowed to you?" His father instantly knew the symbolism. He knew that the sun was him, that the moon was his mother, and that the stars was his other brothers, or his other children. But anyway, I think he made a dynamic point in that breakdown. Wish he wasn't freezing up. So I'm gonna move on to more roles, and I'm gonna start, and then I'm gonna pass it down. I'm gonna pass it down the line. The role of the adult male in the family, to me, there are two basic roles that the adult male has to play in the family, as he just broke down, that the relationship or the dynamic between the mother and the father, or the male and the female, becomes the center focus of what builds the family. The adult male has two major roles, and that's the role of a husband, and it's the role of a father. And as a husband, the word husband comes from the Old English husbande, which literally means to manage a household. That's what the word literally means. So the husband's role in the family is to manage the household and to manage the resources of the household. And then we look at his role as a father. The first definition in father is God. And the basic definition in Webster of a father is to be responsible for the origin of. That's what the basic definition of a father is, to take care of. And in certain school of builders, they'll even break father down from a symbolic point of view and say father means to fatten her, to F-A-T-H-E-R. And it means to fatten her not only with the life-giving seed from his loins, but with the mind-raising seed from his own mind. So the role of the adult male is to be a husband and to be a father in the house, in the household. So I'm gonna pass that down to you, brothers, from y'all point of view, from y'all opinion. What do you think is the role of an adult male in the family? Let me left on us, and he just gave that beautiful bill on the relationship between males and females.
Let me start by just even going further into what separates in terms of the yin and the yang between the male and the female, because I think a lot of times some of our listening audience, they may still be in conflict with accepting the natural aspects of those roles. Kind of going back to what you were saying about being a provider. So where that comes from an aspect of nature standpoint, think of the man as the one that does the inserting, right? So men insert into the woman. So therefore we provide. They take in. When they take it in, like for instance, when in a aspect of just talking about reproduction, we give the sperm, and then the seed takes that sperm in and then nurtures that sperm and develops that sperm and grows it until it becomes a child. And then obviously after 9 months, they birth the child. So from that standpoint, the male provides and the woman nurtures. And so if we accept that as it applies to the physiology, then we just duplicate that same thing to what's also referred to as the aspects of the Trinity in regards to the physical, mental, and spiritual roles of the man within the family unit. One thing I do want to say that what we got to be careful of, especially when we're talking about helping people develop and recognize the roles of the family and what the family is that when we talk about the mental, physical, and spiritual aspects are within that I play within a family as a male, I have to make sure we deal with that in terms of balance, because oftentimes people enter into family relationships or family bonds without recognizing the equilibrium that needs to be played between the physical, mental, and spiritual. Too often, we apply things purely to our physical aspect. In other words, I may be 21 now, I may be 25 now. Being 25 years old, I have this level of responsibility or level of obligation that seems to be forced upon me by my previous generation saying, hey, you grown, you get out the house, you go and start and raise your own family. So sometimes we may prematurely jump into the role of dealing with being a family unit or developing the next bridge of the family unit, because we are physically at that age to where we're ready to have a family, but we need to be mentally and spiritually there as well. So within that male role, you have that equilibrium that must take place in order to deal with the salvation of a decent and a upright family unit. So in addressing that, going into the physical aspect, one of the things we talk about in obviously aspect of the male role, dealing with nature as being a guide, is a security role. The man tends to be more muscular, the man tends to be more physically fit from that standpoint, so then he will take on a security role. But now in addressing things from a security standpoint, it can even break down into further aspects. That don't always mean physical. That could be physical, mental, and spiritual as well. But the point being, he takes on a certain level of security as it applies to the family, so that the environment in which the woman can nurture the family is secure and able to stay intact so that she can perform her job. So to me, that's one of the things. But you also, again, have to recognize that we must be in balance and in harmony within ourselves as a man in order to be able to process our role righteously as we do our part as a male within the family. Go ahead, E.
And you know where we get all of that from? Where we get all of that definition of your role in society and what you're expected to do and blah, blah, blah. We get all that shit from the family. You know, our reality, our purpose, our persona in our traditional societies is defined by those around us. They let us know what's expected of us, what we're supposed to do. In this society, we don't have that. We don't have rites of passage. We don't have definition, because definitions have become so antagonistic. They've become they're fighting words. You can't define me. Wah, 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 wah. Bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So even, you know, I guess the show is supposed to be about what can we do type shit. For me, again, going back to that dynamic, you can talk about mother, father, children all day long, but as long as mom and daddy fucked up, your kid gonna be fucked up. It's just how fucked up. You know, to what degree are the parents fucked up is gonna play a big part in how, you know, fucked up the kid is. That's just the way it is. So again, it comes back down to anybody that's listening or watching or whatever, taking that personal inventory and revisiting their own ego and realizing that if you have a conversation and someone says something, whether they're trying to hurt your feelings or not, being able to step back and think about that and realize a lot of times that if it hurts, it's because it might, at least to some degree, in some way, in some part, be true. And we have to own that shit and start embracing that shit. Not judge ourselves as Christianity would have us do, but to look at it intelligently without a judgmental eye to evaluate what our position in the world is, what our relationship to women should be. Is this going to be all of those types of things? But that takes maturity. And this society does not cultivate that type of maturity. So any so-called individual has to be able to take it upon themselves in the day in and day out drudgery. And I get tired of, you know, folks, well, I don't have time to, you know, I get it. They keep us busy with these bullshit jobs for a reason, so that we can't sit and think about the things that are more important. But the reality of it is, fuck that. I've had to sit through it. Wars had to sit through it. Sykes had to sit through it. So if other folks can take 20 minutes a day after you're off of work to sit and really think about some shit, have a conversation. Oh, I forgot to send that list to that brother. Have a conversation with some folks that you know are going to be of benefit, or read part of a book, read part of a fucking book, just a piece of it. You know, you can do that. I don't give a fuck who you are, what you're doing. Your schedule is not that busy that you can't reflect honestly for 15 or 20 minutes every day. To say otherwise is just an excuse, and that's what be pissing me off. That's why I don't deal with people, because it's that excuse. It's that excuse. I can't do it. I don't have time. All of that baby bullshit. You don't deserve to have children. If you can't find time to work on yourself, you don't deserve to have a family. Go ahead and be by yourself. You know, get your rocks off however you need to, and just quit playing, quit acting like you want a family or want something substantial, and move the hell on. Because that's what's going to take at the very basic, at the very least, is people reflecting on themselves, honestly reflecting, and not getting caught up in their emotions and trying to defend and all of that bullshit. So, I mean, yeah, the thing that has to happen first is we have to fix the dynamic between the male and the female. I'm sorry, kids. Sorry. But the first thing is to fix that dynamic between the male and the female. Brothers have to start working with brothers. Matter of fact, one of the first things, I don't know if I ever got to say this, but I've been wanting to say this for a long time. Francis Cress Wilson suggested that what all brothers have to do is to get into a room with nothing but brothers, because, you know, we talk different when sisters are around, pretty much. But a room full of brothers, look at each other, and in mass, in unity, one at a time, acknowledge that we're afraid of white men. Period. We have this fear that white men absolutely, completely control our lives. We can't function as alpha males. in any real sense, as long as white knowledge that that fear of them has been translated into our relationship with her. That's what we have to do. We have to man up to that. I don't care how hard you think you are. Let a white boy with a walkie-talkie and a little badge on show up. You even if it's just for a second, you up. Okay. You evaluate that. It's a white dude. He got a badge. What? It's just automatic. White dude without a badge. Matter of fact, I don't know if you remember, we was walking downtown Fort Worth one time. We was going, I think, to the courthouse. If you can imagine two black men going to the courthouse. And it was these two white, it was one or two white dudes walking down the sidewalk toward us. And you made a comment or something along the lines of, move out the way so they can get by or some shit like that. And I was like, nah, fuck that. Why? But that's that fear. That's that no matter how hard we are, we still have that fear where we'll get off the sidewalk so the white man can walk by. And I'm not knocking us for it. We're supposed to be like that. That's what we've been bred to be like. That's just where it is. But acknowledging that shit is there on some level, somewhere, we're worried. White folk are gonna do something. White man's gonna do something. I don't care if he's an attorney, he's a cop, he's a doctor, he's a bag boy at the grocery store. It don't fucking matter. That white dude has pull over your life. I don't give a fuck who you are. He has pull over your life. So that's my rant. Deuces.
I already knew he was gonna do a rant. I gotta. Nah, I ain't gonna go there because we're gonna go all the way off the rails. He had touched something, but I ain't gonna go into it. All right. So what are the roles of the adult female? Her major roles in the family?
Well, it's hers to nurture. It's hers to kiss the boo-boo. It's hers to ensure the economics of the home are intact and functioning in a way that they should be. All the things that we could attribute to the moon. There's a reason that in the X-Men, the movies, the comic book, there's a reason that Storm, the character Storm, is an African woman who controls the weather. Because that old saying that if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. The emotional stability of a family rests on the shoulders of the woman, period. That's her biggest role, is making sure that, not that everybody's happy, but that the atmosphere is healthy. Women can fuck our heads up really, really quick, really easy, just by a couple of words or a glance or a look, because that's her power and her ability. So she has to be very, very aware that the emotional content, the emotional well-being of the children, yes, but also her man is very dependent. If his role is to go out and deal with the world and then to have to come home and deal with some bullshit. I mean, and I'm not talking about legitimate gripes or whatever. I'm talking about the gossiping about Susie down the street and Miss Ida Mae and all the shit that they done got into, or something she saw on TV, or she mad because of something that I did 2 years ago or some to have to go and deal with white folks, where essentially when you go to work for a man, you have to hang your balls at the front door when you go in. And then to come back out and you got to deal with the cops, even if you don't get pulled over, you making sure he ain't around. You go to the grocery store, all of that shit. Our fear of white folk to come back home and then have to deal with that kind of bullshit, it's heavy. It's major. And then to want to argue, because some sisters equate arguments and all of that type of stuff with that's how he showed me he loved me type of bullshit. And so she subconsciously looks for that shit. If it's not there, she'll create that shit. And so that further stresses this man who's now got to take that shit and try to keep it down when he goes and deals with the oppressor out here. And sisters I don't think, understand how heavy that is. You can make or break a man much more easily than another man could break a man. Believe it or not. Psych used to tell me stories about cats, going to prison and knowing his girl is out there or seeing his girl is with another man or whatever, just lose his mind. You don't hear a lot of sisters going out like that, behind because some brother done left her or some shit, because that's the dynamic. We went to Jasper one time and there was a cat, I'm not gonna name names, but his wife was boo-hooing and crying and sad and everything that we were going to Jasper, thought we might die, and she's scared and all of this. And when we talked to the brother, we knew that that's where she was because he was there. His heart wasn't into it. He wasn't ready to die. He wasn't ready to kill. He wasn't ready to go handle business. He was worried about his girl because she done projected all this fear into her. You know, I can feel my mother when I'm up on top of a ladder at work, 12 feet in the air, standing on that step that says, do not step on this step, but you got to step on that step to get done what you got to get done because it's another 8 feet above you or whatever. I can hear my mother, oh, be careful. Oh, don't fall. I can hear that in the back of my head. And I know that that's affected me. I've picked up that energy and had to work with it throughout my life. Whereas if she'd have said, you got this, don't even worry about it, I probably would have been much more confident over the years. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Had she projected that, you got this, I raised you right, you don't even worry about it. That confidence, I would have picked up on it, but because she projected this fear, then it's something that's in the back of my head. And so a man will always take that fear, that energy, whatever it is his woman gives him, or that he takes, he'll take it with him into the world. And if he's taking bullshit into the world, he ain't got a fucking chance.
You're right. I think you're 100% correct. One thing about nature is not chauvinistic and it's not feminist, because nature always seeks balance. It always seeks homeostasis. So as you were saying earlier, that would be her power. While the man on average is usually bigger and stronger physically, there are strengths that's inside a woman that'll create that harmony, that'll create that balance between the two. And she does have the ability to affect like that. And to add to that Jasper story here, and the truth of that is that brother's wife was so afraid for his safety that her energy even projected on me, not fear in myself, but I started thinking about my woman and what kind of fear she had in her. So it made me go back to my lady at the time to try to make sure she was all right and ask her, man, are you worried? If you don't want me to go, I'll stay. And my woman's response was different though. She was like, man, you better go on and get what you need to get and go on and do what you're supposed to do. Talk about staying with me. You had no business staying here with me when y'all got this to take care of. And when she said that just boom. All right, let's go. Let's go to war. Let's go do what we need to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So his woman, even though it wasn't my woman, projected that on me, and then my woman breathed life back into it, so we was able to go do what we needed to do. So
we can kind of see that not only is her energy responsible fundamentally for the energy, the emotional stability and content of the family unit, but it also bleeds out into the rest of the community. If you have a community of sisters that are scared, pissed off, whatever, all of that's just going to build and circulate and make that a very seismic situation, very unstable situation, just before it even gets out the door. Brothers are secondary. We're talking about the first. This is a black woman. So if her shit is shaky, everything that latches onto it or is affected by it is going to be shaky, just the way it is.
Makes me think about a movie that is a great movie, even though it's historically incorrect and not all the way honest. The movie 300, great warrior movie, where his wife told him, "Sport and come back with your shield or own it." Her whole conversation, her entire dialogue, the whole way she spoke to him, was always empowering. And to the point that when the messenger from the Persians came and spoke negatively of her, he put that foot on him and put him in that well. You know what I'm saying? But it's just something to think about when we talk about the dynamics between male and female relationships. And
matter of fact, he looked back at her.
Yeah.
When he was about to do it, he looked at her like, what's the word? She was like, yeah. And he went on and did it.
Yeah, went on and did, because he knew what he was bringing to them by putting that foot on them.
Yeah.
And he kind of sought her. He kind of sought that mother wisdom. He kind of sought her approval of the act that he was about to take. And he didn't even have to say what he was about to do because she know him. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the type of stuff, and I know it's a movie or whatever, but we pull from movies all the time, because the reality of it is art reflects life as well as gives a vision for where life should be. So, I mean, this is the same type of stuff that Mr. Farrakhan, is known to talk about, at least to me, quite a bit, is the position of the woman and how, we have failed. That there's no way that the enemy should have access to our women the way that they do. That's some bullshit. That we've come up short, blah, blah, all of those types of things. Was it Mary McLeod Bethune said the value of a people, or the true worth of a people, can be measured by the content of its woman. Wherever she sits in a society, that's where that culture is. You know, if she's homeless and strung out, you got a major problem. You got a major problem, because it's women are the first teachers. When their child is still in the womb, she's teaching them nourishment by what she eats, emotions, because everything she feels that child is going to feel. If she's smoking, if she's cracked out or whatever, everything. So she's teaching that child before we ever even know there's a child in there. So her role is most immediate, it's like state of emergency. It's 11:59, clock's about to strike 12, and it's crucial. It's crucial that sisters are able to get back into a position where they can rear men. Sisters used to bring up Huey P. Newtons, used to bring up Malcolm X's, used to bring up, Marcus Garvey, used to bring these cats up. Now they bring it up, Kanye West and Drake, and what's that little guy, Lil Wayne or whatever. They bringing up these cats, they're not reflecting anything powerful into our community, and so we felt her, and now she's failing us, and the entire system's falling apart. So again, I say those roles, those values, that self-worth, as long as the sister thinks that she has to show her ass and the tits in order to impress a man or get a man's eye or whatever, as long as that's the case, we've got a major problem, because they're devaluing the most valuable thing on the planet. And we've got to get ourselves back into a position where she no longer feels that she has to, yeah, sister looks good with this cut on, with this dress on, with stuff hanging, yeah, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong, and this goes toward helping to define sisters' roles and getting back in male-female roles and all of that. But though a sister might look nice because she's showing her ass and her tits, what's really going through our minds when we say that she looks nice is she looks easy. She looks like somebody I'd fuck her, and that's it. There is no, I'd like to get to know her. There's no, I'd like to, build a house for her. I'd like to build anything with her. There's just, yeah, I'm gonna hit it and quit it. But that's the value that sisters have been reduced to is a nut. And we, as men, have to show her that she's worth more than that. She don't have to have things showing, looking in her face and speak to her and have a conversation. But on the other side, I get it. A lot of them out with sisters that come up with mothers that are strung out, that are in bad relationships, and da 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 da. So it's this vicious cycle, and somebody's got to step in and say, "Gone, war, gone." I was only talking because y'all was sitting there looking like nothing. So, shit.
Well, I want to speak on just that one element you just left off talking about in regards to the I would say the dress of the women, and that has a lot to do with the fact that, from the standpoint of the previous generation, more than likely, she did not have the correct father figure within our household. So a lot of times what you're dealing with is you're dealing with somebody, again, going back to when we talked initially about what defines the roles, go into the factors of what generates the position to even define a role within male, female, or child relationship, which again is that mental, physical, and spiritual maturity that has to be handled. So from that standpoint, now you're talking about a woman who may not have had the father figure that she needed to have. So from that standpoint, what she's doing is she's reverting back to the innate aspect of nature that says, let me show myself, which creates an attraction. That attraction gets her looked at, gets her people coming around. It gets her the attention. With attention, it's assumed that you will get love. And so now we're talking about the aspect of the psychological aspect of having attention brings value to me, because now people are wanting to be around me, versus the whole sexual desire aspect of it. Because keep in mind, most women naturally deal with sex in order to get love. And that's not necessarily how the man thinks. But women typically do that because of wanting love. And so from that standpoint, now we're dealing with the aspect of the relationship, of that family relationship that may have been damaged through the previous generation. Because if you go into a situation and you don't have self-love and you're full of self-hate, or you don't know how to love yourself, then you obviously, from a family building perspective, you're not going to be able to properly introduce love to the rest of the members of the family. So then, now as that male figure of the previous generation that created that gap within the family structure, are dealing with the whether they're dealing with deserving to raise a family or an obligation to raise a family. Because oftentimes people are pushed in position of feeling like they're obligated to start cultivating a family unit. And so therefore, if they're feeling a certain kind of way or they're immature within the balance of the physical, mental, and spiritual, now they don't know necessarily are they deserving of one. But yet the previous generation has pushed them into this mode to where they have to produce a family before they're ready, or produce a family and they're just not ready and don't know that they're not ready. Because again, we're dealing with self-hate. So as we address self-hate and recognize how to love ourselves, that goes into what we can provide within a family. Because if I don't know how to properly love myself, then what happens when I go into building a family unit, the polarity between the relationship of a male and female, or just say the family unit in itself, is going to get twisted and mixed up and combobulated, because I don't know how to necessarily go back and reflect, like Brother E was talking about earlier, about taking time out of your day and being able to go inside of yourself and figure out who you are. If you can't do that and you can't develop self-love, then there's no way you can possibly bring it properly to the family and exhibit that characteristic so that you can bring the balance within the role that you provide for the family. So those are the things that we are suffering from that have to be addressed, going back to when I first talked about the individual, the family, and the community. Because as an individual, if I don't know how to love myself, then I'm obviously going to be impaired as it applies to knowing how to love the other members of my family and promoting and projecting that. And therefore, now obviously that's going to play a role and cause the person that is supposed to be the nurturer of the family to have to adapt some of those responsibilities, because I'm not bringing it properly. And now things start shifting in terms of who does what, when they do this, and then it throws the whole family unit out of balance. So to bring that back into balance, every member of the family must address self first and foremost, so that they can do and bring to the family unit what they're supposed to be bringing. That has to happen. And oftentimes we've already established the family, and now all of a sudden we have to go back and start addressing who we are and getting ourselves together. But we have to be willing to do that. So a lot of times we're dealing with damage control in the midst of already having to raise the offspring or the children within the family. The point being, we have to recognize that. So we have to recognize the individual needs to have self-love and be able to extinguish hate for themselves. And going back to what he was talking about, in the middle of a society to where here we are taught to be inferior and taught to think and act inferior, but yet we supposed to be operating in a position of an intact family. So those are the types of dynamics that works against the family unit, just coming at it from an individual, regardless of whether we talk about male, female, entering into the exchange or relationship of a family. Both are bombarded with these same aspects. And a lot of times it's from the previous generation who may not even recognize that they brought this dysfunction to the next generation, or the seeding that's going out there to start this new family.
But see, I think one of the things we have to look at is we have to understand that we're dealing with a wise and crafty opposition. This opposition, this historical opposition to Black people, is wise and crafty. And I say this because I say that we have to understand that they study human nature, and psychology and sociology exist for the purpose of studying human nature. Psychology exists for the purpose of studying the individual, while sociology exists for the purpose of studying how groups react to certain stimuli. And one of the things that we got to understand is that naturally, by nature, going back to what Brother E left out on and what Walt picked up on, is that by nature, one of a woman's most primal needs is to have attention. And it exists for a reason. Nature didn't want to sit back and wait for you to figure out that you need to go over there to her and like her. Nature didn't have time to wait for you to do that. So nature just programmed certain things into us, into her and into you. I'm gonna give an example, then I'm gonna go back to my point. An apple is red for a reason. A banana is bright yellow for a reason. It smells the way it does for a reason. It's to catch your attention, to make you go over to it. Then you sniff on it and be like, that smells kind of all right. Now the next thing you want to do is eat it. Why? Because those fruits have nutrients that your body needs for proper development. Nature just tricked you into doing what you needed to do. So a woman has inside of her a need to get attention. And she's magnificently built and have certain features that will grab that attention. She walks in a certain way. Her voice sounds melodic. All these things nature has put in her to get your attention. Now, in this modern day society, there are certain standards that will be placed on her, or that will be put in front of her that'll make her, or at least tell her that if you do this, you'll grab his attention. So now they'll walk around on stilts, raptor claws attached to their hands, some fake dead person's hair attached to their head, paint themselves like clowns and stuff. They'll do this because someone has told them this gets your attention. And for the most part, if you ask the average dude, do y'all like them long nails? The average dude gonna say, hell no. You know, they women are for the most part confused about what it is that we're attracted to. If you ask men, do you like them long weaves? For the most part, the average man is gonna say, we really don't like them long weaves. You know what I'm saying? We're not into that. You know, it's other things about a woman that makes her stand out and makes her gorgeous to us. And I've never in my life met a man that said, boy, she had a bad weave on the day. I've never met that guy. I've never met him. You know, that ain't what we say. That ain't how we talk. You know, those are not things that we look at. I don't know this weave from the next one. You know? I don't. And see, but at least it goes back to that. She's like the peacock of the human species. She got to grab attention, and it makes you want to go out and perform in order to catch her once she's able to catch your attention. But when I said all that to say this, that understanding our opposition studies human nature and knows this and knows how to weaponize these natural things against us, to work against us. And that's where these issues and these problems come from. See, and Brother E laid it down perfectly, and Brother Walt built on it and added to it these roles that men and women play. While the man, we call the man the sun, and we talk about how it's his role to shine that light, or to get that life-giving sperm, germ, and information to a woman. But we sometimes forget that it's her job to provide gravity. It's her job to provide gravity in the home and in the house. It's her job, while he shines light, it's her job to reflect it. You know, we say that the man is knowledge, but she is wisdom, because wisdom is knowledge in action. You know what I'm saying? It's that seed being taken and then transformed and gestated into something. So she reflects that knowledge through wisdom, through conversation and movement, and she does it naturally. And so we have been damaged to such a degree. We have to start working back to what we were, all working to start resurrecting families. And one of the things that I used to tell the brothers in prison is that we got to understand that a lot of times that you're not going to be able to go home and save your mother, change her mind. You know, she might be too far gone. You might not be able to go home and save your father, change his mind, or your old uncle. They might have to go. You know, and I'm going to use, Brother E used scripture earlier, so I'm going to use it. You know, when the children of Israel, when they were looking for the promised land, they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. But they wandered until all the old people died. And then once the old people died, then they crossed over to the promised land. They didn't intentionally do it, but this is a metaphor. This is telling us something. There are old things that in this life we have to get rid of in order to move over to the next life. Some of those things may be people. Some of those are old negative ideas. You know what I'm saying? But in order to be able to move to our next stages, we have to recognize this, and we have to start taking the responsibility, especially for a lot of the young brothers. Got to start taking the responsibility of resurrecting families, reclaiming families, and rebuilding families from a format, so to speak. Any one of you brothers want to build on that, or add to that, or move on to the next subject matter?
Yeah, the worst thing that ever happened to brothers and I guess the game in general is Instagram, because no brother compete with the amount of attention that a woman gets on fucking Instagram. It just ain't gonna happen. And that being the case, her wanting that attention and whatnot, yeah, you can't compete against that. You're not gonna get 10,000 followers from one dude. So that competition is just thrown off. But I know there was an episode of Good Times. I don't know if y'all remember Good Times. That was one of my favorite shows. James Evans Sr., the daddy on there, that was one of my role models. I don't give a damn what you say about it. That's what it was. But Thelma was dating some dude in college, and of course they didn't like it. And he was writing a paper for school, his thesis or something. And he was talking about teenage pregnancy in the ghetto. And in there, he noted that the prevalence of unwed pregnancies in our communities had a direct relationship to the presence of the father. In other words, the more the father was around, the less teenage pregnancies, unwed pregnancies, and all of that took place. I think, Syke, you said it years and years ago that a father is a little girl's first experience with manhood. And so I always tried to keep that in mind, particularly with Rashida, my oldest, making sure I was aware of, how I spoke to her mother or about her mother, different things that I would do, because that's what she's going to grow up to expect and look for in a man. And that's kind of bittersweet at this point, because she's having a hard time finding a man because of that standard that's been set. But at the same time, she ain't got a bunch of baby daddies. She's nearing 30 years old. So, I'm not saying that's all because of me. I'm not bragging or anything, but I know that's a part of the dynamic, that when a little girl has a particular standard of manhood, or any standard, she's gonna go look for her father, period. The boy's gonna go look for their mama. That's just built into us. We look for those traits because that was our first experience with not being, we come into this world afraid. All the lights and the doctors and the noises coming from the womb, and we come into this and we just scared. So the ones that start to give us some type of shelter from that fear, we latch on to them and we mimic them and we watch them and we learn what's expected of us. We learn what to expect from others, and that's one of the reasons, sisters can't rear men, because she can teach him what it is she expects from a man, but it takes a man to define what is a man, particularly to another man. So it's absolutely necessary, and that's why I say it falls back on us. For me, in my mind, it falls back on Black men, on brothers, to change that tide. We just have to. And I had some other stuff, but I forgot about it. I don't know. You said a lot of stuff. That's why I was holding up fingers and whatnot. I'm like, I got 4 points I need to make. I think I got 2 of them. I forgot the other 2. But, y'all lost. Whatever.
See, this is one of the things you got to do, brother. I know you know this because
I'm not going to do it.
Been through a political education classes with me. You better have a notebook and a pen and write those points down so you can go, oh, yeah, well, anyway, and yeah, this and that and that and so forth and so on. That's the way that goes. Brother Waters, you want to add on and build on?
Are you trying to embarrass somebody?
The MOI, I got to get you. Yeah. Brother Waters, you want to build on that? Because I got like 6 points that I'm going to go into that I'm gonna be a little warlocky, so.
You wrote your shit down, huh?
Huh?
You wrote your shit down too, huh?
Well, I wrote this down about 10 years ago.
Damn.
Remember, I had a lot of time on my hands.
Well, all I was going to just say was that part of what I keep referring to when I say the trifecta, and I throw that out there because we need to start making sure people pick up on symbology. And I know y'all two brothers, the idea of the triple stage darkness. So from that standpoint, what are we talking about? And when I like to deal with, in terms of the three aspects of the darkness, has to do with the first engaging into the physical, and then the mental, and then the spiritual. Whereas the three stages of light will be coming through the spiritual first, the mental, and then manifesting through the physical. So the thing is as we talk about these roles, and we talk about recognizing how to bridge and bring together a proper family, the listening audience, they need to grasp the concept of what we're talking about, because we keep referring to the things in threes, and it's a reason for that. And even when we refer to them in the polarities, like what E is talking about within the male and the female relationship, because the bottom line is, until those things are in harmony or in balance, then the offspring will not have a foundation. And then that kind of builds into what's referred to as generational foundational advance, which basically means the whole purpose of the two coming together to create a family is to replicate. And that replication must have a foundation that is stable, so that it can reach a next level or next plane of a plateau within the I would say the spreading of that family. And so when we talk about the damage that has been done to our family units as African people, we need to be able to go back and deal with these aspects of this darkness and of this light, and address that trinity properly. Because not until we address it properly will we break the curses that continue to plague the next generation and the next generation, and so on and so forth. And so therefore we keep having these families generate and build through what they think is an obligation, from the standpoint of not being deserving of what they need to do in order to come to the table properly and in balance with their role within the family unit. Because if the man doesn't have himself in balance in any capacity, it's going to shake the foundation and disrupt the foundation. And with a disrupted foundation, you're always going to be in this mode of constantly trying to repair, but at the same time, you reproducing as well. You're always reproducing as you repair. So at what point do we move beyond this constant reproduction of repair versus reproduction of building? That's all I wanted to say. So jump in on that, Sight.
And you know my attitude, I ain't Sight, but whatever. You know my attitude is too late. Hang it up. It's over. It's a wrap. Society and everything that binds society together is so individualized to the degree that people can't conceive of any type of unity, least of all a male-female one-to-one type of scenario. So in my head, things have got to fall off and come. I mean, think about it. War. Okay, so my children are pretty much 18 and up. They're pretty much adult. War, the majority of your children, majority of your kids, I make it sound like you got like 50. The majority of your children are up. We've come to these understandings of these things of awareness at around 35, 40, 50 years old. So by now, my oldest, your oldest, hell, Sight's oldest, they ain't trying to hear that shit. Yeah, they're listening to some stuff here and there and whatnot, but making real changes, paradigm shifts, and having their whole dynamic just completely different and doing something significantly different probably ain't gonna happen. If we'd had this understanding when we was 25, and our babies were still babies, we'd have been on some shit. We probably would have liberated everybody in the world by now. We done. It's over. Everybody can go home. Put your AKs away. It's all groovy. Copacetic. But you don't get those things till later on. If we had social structure intact, that would be fine, because it would matriculate down to the children. We would be exposed to the babies. We'd be helping to rear the babies. We'd still be teaching their parents. Their parents would have been brought up in a mindset of listening to their elders, because they don't do it no more. So they would have listened and it would have gotten passed on, but we don't have that. So we got 3 old motherfuckers, well, 2 old motherfuckers and a soon to be old motherfucker, who then came aware of some shit and now trying to reach out and I'm hoping maybe there's some like 6-year-olds that are watching at some point, so that maybe they'll pick up on it. Because I honestly believe that my daughters, again, she's 29, so that generation right in there and below, or I don't say below, but behind her, everything is so much about the individual. All this shit that we're saying, you're defining people, that's a strike, no good. You're talking about me pressing down what my ego says I want to do, so that's no good. You got all of these strikes because everything we're saying is so counter to popular culture, and they're so immersed and brought up in. Half these motherfuckers don't even know what a book is. They're used to PDFs if they know that. They don't know what a dial tone on a phone is. They're from a totally different mind than what it is we came from. So for me, yeah, it's gonna take a whole lot of imploding of a society and a forced situation where we, it's cyclical. All of this shit is cyclical. So it makes sense that we get to these heights, and in order to get beyond the damage that's been done, we have to be broken completely down, like we're going in the military, like we're going into the penitentiary. We have to be completely broken down. So once we're completely broken down, then maybe we want to talk about it. When a sister and brother get to be, 50, 60 years old, then sometimes if they haven't already, been in a good relationship or whatever, then they kind of want to talk about what makes a relationship good. Should have been talking about that when you was 12, not, 47. By then it's like, shit, you old and washed up. Nobody care. You ain't making kids. Fuck on. So for me, the worst is gonna have to happen before any movement takes place. Because we ain't trying to hear it. I'm sorry. I know y'all with the principal and all of that, kumbaya bullshit. But for me, shit's a wrap as far as I'm concerned.
Let me say this.
We gonna come out on top, but it's gonna be a whole lot worse, and relationships gonna be a whole lot worse before we get there.
Well, there's always a storm before the calm. So that's what we talk about. There's that storm. So,
why do you have boxing gloves on?
Why do you have gloves on?
Because he want to fight. You know what I'm saying?
He always wants to fight.
Damn right.
So let me this and then me pass it to you. Like part of that Trinity, another part of the Trinity I do want us to reference in terms of the intact family structure that we need to bring up is also, we talk about the child, the parent, but then there's the grandparent. So that's another aspect of that Trinity. And part of the relationship damage that we're dealing with here is that the connection between the child and the grandparent has been severed because of the relationship a lot of times between the grandparent and the grandparent's child, which is the children's parent. So these three different groups, or should I say generations, have to be repaired and have to be intact, which brings forth a situation to where the newer family unit will be intact. Because it's a lot of times, there's a lot of things that sometimes, kind of even going back what he said, that as a first-time parent, I'm experiencing certain things in terms of what I think should be being done for this family unit, that through hindsight of the grandparent, they can be like, well, this is probably the best way to go about that. And so when we talk about reuniting and correcting and dealing with the solutions of a proper family unit, let's not leave out that, because that's the Trinity that we must have that stabilizes the entire package. Now, your turn, Sight.
Now I'm gonna say this. Now, I disagree with you. I don't think it's just our way over with. It's bleak. Don't get me wrong. It looks bleak, but this is where the rebuilding process starts at. Like example, I'm gonna tell another story. I'm gonna tell another story. Maybe 2, 3 stories.
Know what kind of grandparent you gonna be?
You know I like to tell stories.
You gonna be that old motherfucker telling stories all the time.
Yeah, that's me. But when I was incarcerated, we created, I done told y'all this a million times, we created a manhood training class called the Uhuru Shule, based on, a lot of the ideas that you and I used to build on even before I went to prison. You had an affinity for the word, for the term Uhuru Shule. That was your thing. So, when I was sitting in prison, laying on that cot, studying, reading, looking at the failed manhood around me, because these dudes in prison, they look like men. They be big and strong and they hit hard, but you see the frailty there. And just laying there thinking to myself, thinking of the ideas that all three of us used to discuss and debate: manhood classes, proper organizing, being introduced to proper culture, things like this. Laying there thinking of this, and we end up creating it. We end up creating who we should lay. And one of the classes was called the Science of Building. And it dealt with family, dealt with what we're talking about, restoring family. And we accepted that family has went all the way off the Richter scale. And we believe that it was by design. And then some of us still have the ability to make changes in our family. And like I said earlier, you're probably not going to change mama and daddy and old uncle that's been doing this forever. It just ain't going to happen. But you have to work where you can work. Like for me, for instance, as you just said, for me, 9 times out of 10, it's probably too late. I probably won't stop until the day I die, but my children are old enough. They 24 and 22 and ain't trying to hear it. And I was away, unable to plant those seeds because I was away from their life so long. They was 4 and 2 when I left. When I came back, they was fully grown. And had already been, I already had other seeds planted in their mind that they believe at this point in time is the way. See, the beauty of prison, and I hate prison, and I hate to admit that some good can come out of prison, but the thing about prison is that it has the ability to show a man where he's failed. It actually has the ability to make him sit down and see that whatever plans he had or whatever moves he was making just wasn't it. And he's sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes he's willing to evaluate his situation. He's willing to look at himself. And like I said, we built that family class. And one of my brothers, for sure, that I know of for sure, see, his children are younger now. And he came home, he's a good brother. I didn't use the picture of the little thing he did with his son a few times in different YouTube videos. But the brother, he came home and he took his son through a rites of passage type of training. Well, what he did was he took a lot of his fraternity brothers. Based on what we built on in prison, he took it because it was one of the rituals that we said that needed to be done in order to start a milestone in achievements in family's growth and development. But he took his fraternity brothers and he spaced them throughout a park. So he walked his son into the park, walked him to the first bench where he met with his first fraternity brother, and he left his son there with him, and he disappeared. And the fraternity brother got up and walked with his son and basically taught him things about manhood until he got him to another bench where he passed him to another fraternity brother who done the same thing. And until they walked him all through the park, passed him to fraternity brother to fraternity brother. At the end, they passed him back to his father. And then they put a circle around the young brother, and then they basically bestowed upon him a plaque. His father gave him a ring and basically told him his responsibilities to the family, things like this. This is one of those rituals that I think is important. And I'm going to get into the 6 in a minute. One of them is the rituals. I'm going to get into the 6 in a minute. And so for me, while my children are 24 and 22, so they not willing to walk through the park and be passed to my revolutionary brothers and conscious brothers, but that brother, his children were. You know what I'm saying? And he was still able to bring that to life. And there was other brothers, that was down there with us, because there's a lot of youngsters down there, 17, 18, 19 years old. They ain't even had their children yet. So they actually have the opportunity to start this from Jump Street, to actually build this and restore it. A lot of us, like you said, we didn't have it. We didn't have the education. And that's the way the things were supposed to go. That's actually how it's supposed to go. That thing was supposed to have been passed down for generations and generations. And it was. In ancient times, people's family was that organization. And those children was taught not only their roles in the organization, but their responsibilities when it came to making sure that they honor the family's name when they moved outside of the family and moved throughout the village and moved throughout the community. Those things were intact. But just like everything else that we lost to slavery, that was one of the things that was completely destroyed. And I think it was Farrakhan that said that three things. He said 3 things that we lost to slavery was the science of economics, the science of warfare, and the science of mating. I remember him saying that before. And I remember when he said that, that's why I wrote a class called The Science of Mating. He said, because if you understand this, you understand the science of mating, you understand you don't just take some old nag horse and mate it with a thoroughbred racehorse. You don't. You made a thoroughbred racehorse with another thoroughbred racehorse. Or you take certain dogs and they bring a dog to you and they say, what's his bloodline? And then they pull out his paperwork to show you his bloodline, his pedigree. You know, and I'm not diminishing the human being to dogs and horses, but that's an understanding of the science of mating. You know what I'm saying? And so one of the things that we gave the brothers, is these 6 points that I'm physically giving y'all. And jump in whenever you want to. Jump in, disagree, add on to it. I'm just gonna go into the 6 points from the
like before you do the 6 points, unless you explained it, because I'm not sure if I quite grabbed it, and I want to make sure the people do. You keep throwing up the word ritual. What is ritual on the family?
Well, a ritual is rituals are activities that you do on a regular basis in order to instill or ingrain certain concepts and ideas into the family. Like, for instance, a family might have a ritual of sitting at the dinner table at 6 o'clock every night. Everybody has to sit at the dinner table and eat because they have to talk to each other, communicate, talk about each other's day, things like that. That's a ritual. Or even the fact that everybody come together for Christmas and eat turkey and dressing, you know, come together, get fat, watch football and eat turkey and dressing. That's a ritual. But the rituals play a part. Even Islam, they pray 5 times a day. That's a ritual.
So what if I hang on a stoop with the homies, getting high and drinking malt liquor all night? That's a ritual.
That's a ritual too. But that ritual will enforce dysfunctional activities that might not necessarily empower us. But that's why when we start being conscious of these rituals, like most rituals, and if it's a good ritual, you won't even be aware of that it's necessarily a ritual. You just think it's a part of life. And that's why there are certain things that we have effective. The ability to do. Say again?
Effective.
Yeah, exactly.
Not good.
Well, effective. You know, and that's one thing about an effective ritual. You won't recognize that it's a ritual. You know, a Muslim that's been a Muslim his entire life, to him praying 5 times a day is not a ritual. You're supposed to do that. And if you're not doing that, something's wrong with you.
Standing in line for 15 hours to get the new iPhone on Black Friday because my mom and dad did it. That's a ritual.
I ain't doing that.
No, I'm just saying that's a ritual. You know, you got your tent set up, you got your hot chocolate, you watching the game. The store gonna be open in 23 hours. We gonna be here. I'm thinking. Hell.
And we take those things. Yeah, you froze up on them. We take those things and we utilize those things because they are effective. We utilize these rituals. But I'm gonna go to these 6 points right quick. I'm gonna go to these quick 6 points, and then we'll get ready to close the video. But these are the 6 points that essentially we believe that was important for a family. And you hear me keep saying that family is an organization. I keep saying family is the human community's first organization. So in any organization, the first thing you got to have is a mission. You got to have a mission statement. Look at a country. Look at the Panther Party. You had to have a 10-point platform to start the thing off. Look at any country, you got to have a constitution. You look at any business, you got to have a mission statement. So the first point is you need to have a family mission, you know, a family mission statement, a constitution, something that you write down. You write down the purpose of your family before anybody even have an opportunity to start fighting and arguing against you. Like I say, we got brothers that was incarcerated with me that hadn't even had their children yet. So you write down the family mission, and you put that mission. You put that mission in a frame and hang it up in your living room or hang it over your kitchen table, you know, so your family can see it every day. Your kids grow up seeing it. It's normal for them to see it. You know, when your son or your daughter get to an age where she's ready to go to college or ready to move out and get her own place, you give her a copy of the family mission to take with her and hang up at his house so he can keep this thing going. But he builds on it and learns it so much throughout his lifetime that it becomes normal. You know what I'm saying? It's just a normal thing. To when he go over his homeboy house and don't see a family mission, in his mind, he's like, man, what the hell is wrong with them? It's like when we was teaching our children, we didn't practice Christmas, but we practiced Kwanzaa. So when our children went to school and told people, well, I don't practice Christmas, the other children looked at them like, what the hell is wrong with y'all? Everybody practice Christmas, but it's because it has become a force of habit. So to me, the first thing would be to write a family mission. You got to have a family mission statement so we can kind of know where the family is going. You know, the second point I believe would be important, and he talked about it earlier, and I talked about it with my brother, what he done with the brother I told you about it. I was incarcerated with what he did with his child is the rites of passage. You create those rites of passages to be milestones for a child's development along the family. You know, and like one of the things that I think would be an important rites of passage for a child when they get to a certain age, let's say like they get to 14, they got to have a family mission memorized. They got to be able to kick it from the top of their head verbatim. You know what I'm saying? And then with that, there's a certain ritual that comes along with that. You might create a ceremony. You might take them out. Whatever it is that you decide to do to commemorate them moving through that milestone. So number 2 to me would be that rites of passage. 3 would be to document the family's history. And this is nothing new, actually. You know, the cold thing, most major religions, most legends that you hear about was based off real people. And usually it's the person who actually built the first family, who organized the village and the community and became such a mythical figure that they turned him into that prophet or that God, Moses, Abraham. You know what I'm saying? They turned him into Saul was probably really a real guy somewhere before they mythologized him into the symbol that he became. You know what I'm saying? So these are things that's important when you pass that history down of the family to the head.
But yeah, believe it or not, just a generation back. Well, I remember my grandmother, you know, it was good for writing the family history. She had a big old Bible about that big, and she would write notes about the family history and the sides of it in the back, just wherever she could. You know, so that is not too far back, you know, the family history and all of that. I had the Bible now, so I could go and look up some stuff if I was really wanted to. It'd be the white side. I don't really care who they lynch. So, you know, I don't look at it too often much, but that my mother took a lot of notes as well in some of her writings and whatnot. And not too long ago, she was here visiting, and she had me FaceTime my oldest daughter, because she wanted us to sit down and listen to her stories about, you know, the family, you know, passing on, because even though she's white, we're very much a verbal and oral people. You know, our histories are passed down verbally, and Brother Carr makes a good case for that particular role in our societies, but that's another conversation. But yeah, so that idea is not too far removed from where we are now. Like I said, my mother has stories and some of the family history and whatnot, but yeah, I would definitely concur having that in some form to pass on so that it can be added to. You know, some cultures in ours and others, sisters will get together as a part of their camaraderie and, you know, sew the big quilts and whatnot, or, you know, do things along those lines, adding their piece to it. And, you know, different types of cloth, kente, mud cloth, and all these different ones have different meanings and different stories. So you add your cloth to it, your piece of the puzzle, your part of the story. So yeah, I would definitely concur.
True indeed. Well, you better say something?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. You must have been burping or something. Anyway, so the fourth point would be to create a family symbol. And this would kind of be like Nike's check or Christianity's cross. You know what I'm saying? Company I work for. You can't see a piece of paperwork that the company puts out without seeing their symbol at the very top of the letterhead. And I think that would be important for a family. And that symbol can be put on maybe a necklace or a ring or something. It should be on the on that family mission statement that I talked about earlier, but that the family grow up, and then with that rites of passage, once the children get to a certain age, they'll get that ring with the family symbol on it.
Definitely, the coat of arms,
exactly,
sort of thing. You know, the naughty. I don't know if you remember that, but
I remember that.
that sort of thing is absolutely, because again, going back to what being a part of the party taught us, is that images are everything.
Yeah.
You know, the Medu so-called hieroglyphs are not pictures, because we couldn't figure out letters like, you know, these dumb motherfuckers would like to have us believe. But because we understood that if I show you a picture of a man walking down the street with a hat, you get that concept a lot quicker in a picture than for me to write a paragraph. There was a man walking down the street. He had a black hat on. He had a red, you know, jacket, and describing all of these things. I show you a picture, you get it right off the top.
Yeah.
Symbols and symbolism are absolutely a part of our genetics. You know, everything is a symbol to the African. The tree is a symbol. The sun is a symbol. You know, a hairbrush and a mirror. Everything is a symbol of something. So yeah, absolutely.
Ironically, and this goes back to I was reading a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, a sociology book, and he talks about why Asians are so good at math. You know, a lot of things we just think that people are predisposed to being good at things because of their ethnicity, but Asians are so good at math because of their language. Their language is basically symbols, and their language for math, their mathematical language is the symbols for their numbers gets to the number a whole lot quicker than our symbols for our numbers get to what that number means. Like their symbols, like if their symbol said 34, their symbols may say 3 10s plus 4. Their symbols mean that. While our symbol for 34 is 3 4, and you got to just simply know what that 3 4 next to each other means. You know what I'm saying? And that's why they're so good and so fast and quick when it comes to dealing with math. But anyway, number 5 would be to create family holidays. Now, one that always come to mind when I think of family holidays is Kwanzaa, which I think would be a good one. I know a lot of Panthers don't like Kwanzaa because who it came from, but I think that that's irrelevant, being that the principles in Kwanzaa are so positive. And that would be a great family holiday, or you can make up your own family holiday, or even practice the holidays that you already have, as long as they are not disrespectful to the culture that you descend from. Because there are certain holidays that are completely against and disrespectful to certain cultures. You know what I'm saying? Like for a Native American to be celebrating Thanksgiving, or even a Mexican to be celebrating Thanksgiving, I think that's completely insane. You know what I'm saying? And it's just something that need to be thought about. And then last, the 6th is to create a set of family principles and virtues. You know, it's one thing to just assume that we understand what a code of morals are. It's a whole nother thing to write your own 10 Commandments, so to speak. To write your own principles, to write these things and have them maybe on the wall or recited consistently, where there is no misunderstanding about what virtues, what principles, what values the family live by. These are just 6 points I think that a man can utilize to start that process of reclaiming and resurrecting family, you know, if he's in the right situation. Go ahead, Brother Walt.
I agree with you on everything you're saying, because basically if you take these 6 points and we apply those, then it works toward rebuilding or correcting or calibrating the family structure to where now we're talking about that individual within the family going inside of themselves and addressing the dysfunctionalities of them as an individual, and then bringing the family around to us collectively unifying around these 6 values. And then once we are able to do that collectively as a family, now what we're also able to do is project this to the next generation, because these encompass how we deal with the rites of passage for that 3rd generation coming in. And as that 3rd generation comes in, now they have a strong foundation to raise the next generation. So what we're talking about is a foundational generational advancement, period. And so this here is just straight up of the solution, a workable solution to get us on the right track and keep us on the right track and keep us calibrated and moving in a positive, progressive direction as it applies to building a family. So I'm 100% agreement with everything you just stated.
If a man's duty is to preserve and protect you and to upkeep you and to keep you in the specified state that God has made for you, this is why men fight over women. But you fight over her for the wrong reason.
When you follow these people that are, self-imposed feminists, I'm a feminist, I do this, I'm a feminist, you hear that word over and over and over again, you'll find that the majority of them are miserable. Look at their lives and ask yourself a question. Do you think they are happy? Do you feel good when you do what they do, right? When you're constantly looking for a dopamine hit.
A man should die before he let a stranger contaminate his woman.
I like dogs. That's the beauty of it. I grab a dog, I choke him, and I kick the shit out of him. And I all day long, I put up a dog's ass. Just bang, bang, bang up his ass. That's my pleasure.
A man should kill. You didn't hear me, brothers. I'll say it again, brother. We ought to be #1 killers on the earth to keep any man away from our woman.
Choke him, and I kick the shit out of him. Just bang, bang, bang up his ass.
Yes.
That's my pleasure.
Less. Take off more clothes, do the most to get attention, right? If you think that that's freedom, the idea that you have to wear less, and the idea that you have to get naked to be heard, you really think that's a form of freedom? Because that's not. That's slavery. That's bondage.
I want you to hear me well. Because we will kill you over these. Any of you that want protection, you come here. Yeah, we'll kill concrete over you.
A thirst trap with your ass out, right? And you want someone in your comments going, oh, you slay, bae. You slayed the day, bae. Hashtag Tuesdays, am I right? Yeah. And you do this stuff for attention, and you're devaluing yourself.
A man is not worth anything if he will not protect the woman that gives birth to his own nation.
I choke him, and I kick the shit out of him. Just bang, bang, bang up his ass. That's my pleasure.
You are a conquered male. And when the white man comes into our society and he goes to war with the men of that society that he may have free access to
the idea
your
that you
woman.
have to get naked to be heard, you really think that's a form of freedom? Because that's not. That's slavery. That's bondage. And you're devaluing yourself.
I choke him, and I kick the shit out of him.
And he has gone to war with us and conquered us as men.
You're devaluing yourself.
And therefore we could not be to her
That's slavery.
what
That's bondage.
God demanded of us to be until we are made free of the mind and the power of our enemies that control and dominate our thinking.
Less. Take off more clothes, do the most to get attention.
We have to be free mentally. And once you are a free black man,
Do you feel good when you do what they do?
then the thing you have to do is then free your woman
I choke him, and I kick the shit out of him.
and your children and become the man to her that God demands of you and me.
When you follow these people, you're devaluing yourself.